Big Sills! Good Friday. Good Friday to all. Hope you have a blessed weekend, man. This is Easter weekend, one of my favorite weekends. Tones like this, he's like, great eating this weekend. Isn't it always cool when you get around the holidays? You know what the holidays do for me? It's time to reminisce about the best things about your life and your family, good times, being together, food, friends, family, all of that. Easter around my family is one of the biggest times of the year, man. I mean, it just brings back great memories. You know, that's kind of why we listen to our favorite songs over and over and over again. You know why? Puts us in a good place. It's why you watch your favorite movies. You know, the guys the other day were talking about their favorite sports movies. Why do you watch them 100 times? Put you in a good place. That's why we do all that stuff repetitively. You know, it's funny. Someone goes, "So, what's your favorite movie?" I go, "The Godfather." They go, "Why?" Because it's about family. Someone goes, "Family and murder?" Not so much that end of it, but the family part of it. That's why we do all those things. Man, we are packed today on this Good Friday. Phil Simms will join us at 4:30. Then we will have Mike Lombardi join us, former general manager, and you hear him in Philly on WIP all the time. He will join us at 5:30, and we are going to talk about the particulars with Jalen Hurts. A couple things I want to hit on and clarify. We always do that like 24 hours after yesterday's show. So, you know what's funny? Oh, wait. I got to get to my Tiger Woods story here, and you're not going to believe how I met Tiger. Now, we lived in Orlando, my wife and I, God, for a long time. Tampa, Orlando, we used to commute back and forth because my show was syndicated in both cities for 15 years. And so over the years, it's how I knew Doc Rivers. So over the years, I got a chance to meet numerous people. Arnold Palmer was a friend of ours. And we would go to the Bay Hill Invitational. Remember when the tournament was called Bay Hill? Now they've named it after his passing, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So I get a call. Tone, listen to these three people. I get a call, and I became friends with J.J. Redick, who played for the Magic. And I became friends. He used to come on my show all the time. All the time. I think either Tuesdays or Thursdays, J.J. Redick used to come on the show with me. Because we aired Magic games. I think on my show we had Magic, Bucks, Rays, Lightning. I think that's what it was. And we had somebody from those teams that would come on our program. Like Derek Brooks used to come on my program. So one night I get a call from J.J. Redick. Check this out. So Tone, listen. He goes, "Hey, meet me at the Blue Martini." And I go, "Okay, I'll meet you." There was a bar in Orlando. He goes, "Meet me at the Blue Martini. I want to introduce you to somebody." So I go back. There's a private room at the Blue Martini. I used to go there all the time. I enjoyed it. I see J.J. Redick. He gives me a hug. He goes, "Now listen, no pictures, no nothing. Come on in." So I walk into the room. There's a bunch of dudes in the room, and there's Tiger. So it's Tiger Woods, and the other guy in the room was Spud Webb. Dude, Dan Sileo, Tiger Woods, J.J. Redick, and Spud Webb. Okay? I'm in the Blue Martini and back in his VIP room with these guys. And this was when Tiger was, I think this was pre-November Golf Club Upside the Head. Okay? This is like when this guy was still like the guy, right? I go over, I meet him, man. I think he's a cool dude. Little nerdy, but that's all right, you know? Went to Stanford. What do you expect? Those guys are nerds. That's all right. So J.J. Redick goes, "Yeah, no pictures, man. He's really a little sensitive to the pictures." I go, "Spud Webb?" He's like, "What, you don't want to meet Spud?" I go, "No, this guy's a slam dunk champion. I'm good." I go, "But Spud Webb?" I go, "Bro, if I told this story 100 times, 100 people would go, 'You're full of shit.'" I'm like, "I need pictures." He goes, "Just get me on the program." So 3 nights ago, I bring it up because it's Masters Week. I go, bro, you got to come on the program. So next week, we're going to get JJ Redick on. I'm like, dog, you got to tell the Tiger story. you got to tell the Tiger story. So we're sitting around, we're drinking and shit, and Tiger's got like 100 dudes around him. Legitimately, there's like a bunch of people in here. And we're sitting, of course, he picks the tab up and everything. It was a great night, but Dan Sileo, Spud Webb, JJ Redick at the Blue Martini in Orlando, Florida. How you doing? I went on the air the next day and everyone was like this. Sills, you're full of shit. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you. So JJ came on that Thursday or Tuesday, whatever it was. And he goes, yeah, man, fun time, huh? And I go, bro, I walk in, there's Tiger. I'm like, holy shit, and get this. I'm not this dude. I go, holy shit, it's Tiger. I said that out loud, and everyone in the room starts laughing. I go, holy shit, it's Tiger. He starts laughing, and I was stunned, man. I was absolutely stunned. Hey, I know. Hey, turn that scene into a movie. Tone, you should have heard me. Holy shit, it's Tiger. Everyone started laughing. Like I said, must have been 100 people in the room, and everyone started howling. Holy shit, it's Tiger. Oh, my God, man. So, JJ, hey, by the way, we're working on Doug Peterson next week, too. We're working on Doug Peterson through my back channels. See, I lost Doug Peterson's number, head coach of the Jags. So guess what I did? Of course. Hey, Frank, can you hook a brother up? He's like, what do you want now? And I go, I need Doug Peterson's number. He's like, listen, let me reach out to Doug first. So he texts me last night. He goes, we're not going to go stupid into Howie bashing when he's on, are we? I go, what would ever give you that notion, Frank, that I would ever take a shit on Howie using Doug Peterson? He goes, Sills. And like many of you say, you know what he said? Sills, leading the witness. And I'm like, man, my reputation is not a good one. Frank's like, promise me. And I went like this, Frank, I promise you. And he goes, no. Say you're not going to bash Howie if Doug comes on. I go, and I did this. Look, I put my head down and went, I promise. Oh, man. Tom goes, Dan's like, trust me. Hey, trust me. Oh, man. Frank's like, dude, you can't do that, man, because Doug will kick my ass. He will not. I swear to you, I will not bash Howie or the Eagles. So Frank starts doing this. He goes, dude, you got to. How about if you don't bring the Eagles? I go, I have to bring the Eagles up. He goes, look, you got to promise me, because Doug likes many of those folks. I go, so he likes many of those folks. Is Howie included in that mix? See, here's where we run into a road stop. Oh, man. So I've got to probably see. I'm being vetted right now for Doug. I'm being vetted by the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So I'm sure the vetting process will go on tonight and tomorrow to see if we can clear him on coming on the program next week. I'm personally being vetted by my friend and head coach of the Panthers. The things I do for you guys, I have to promise, and get this, I have to promise not to bash the. When do I ever bash the Eagles? How come my eyes twitching? I don't know. How come my eyes twitching? As you should. I'm being vetted. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Why would Big Sills be vetted? Anyway. All right. Just to put some loose ends together here and tie them up here. Someone asked me a question after the program yesterday about Will Anderson when we were talking about potentially trying to move up to get the guy if he falls out of the top 3. They asked me to compare him to a player. And I said, okay, would you draft Cornelius Bennett and put him on your team? And you know what Cornelius did? He liked the tweet. I compared him to Cornelius Bennett, 7-time Pro Bowler, Defensive Player of the Year, guy who went to 5 conference championships and won them. Would you want Cornelius Bennett on your football team? Would you want Biscuit on your team? He liked it. Cornelius thinks he's a lot like him. Would you want Cornelius Bennett on your team or Jerome Brown? Would you want one of those two players? I say Jalen Carter looks like Jerome to me. And I also think that Will Anderson reminds me of Cornelius Bennett. How about this? You've never had an outside linebacker that's remotely close to Cornelius Bennett. If it wasn't for Derek Thomas, well, I think Bennett's a better player than Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas is a better pass rusher, for sure. But get this, Michael Parsons ain't better than Cornelius Bennett. Nah, not close. Not close. Greasy goes high praise. You're damn right. And guess what? From my friend, who is a dear friend of mine, Cornelius Bennett, look at my Twitter page, at Dan Sileo Show. He liked it and agreed. Will Anderson reminds him of himself. That's not Dan Sileo saying it. That's Cornelius Biscuit Bennett saying it. Let's do this. Would you move up for Cornelius Bennett? Cornelius Bennett thinks he reminds him of himself. Okay? Cornelius Bennett. Let's just take a look at that for a second here and see what he accomplished. Of course, he's a Bama guy. 6-time Pro Bowler. All-decade player. All-rookie. On the Bills' 50th anniversary team. Southeastern Conference Player of the Year. Lombardi winner. 3-time All-American. 5-time conference champion. 71.5 sacks. College Football Hall of Famer. Should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Played in 206 games and started 204 games. Would you want that guy on your team? Would you trade up to the 4th pick to get Bennett? Would you trade up to get Biscuit? Who in their right mind wouldn't? Who in their right mind wouldn't? And Cornelius agrees with me. Yeah, he reminds me of myself. So it's not just Dan Sileo. Cornelius Bennett says it. Yeah, that guy shows the same characteristics that I had when I played at Alabama too. The only other player that was better than him on that Bills team was Bruce Smith. My opinion, it probably went Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, and then Darryl Talley. Those were the 3 best players on that defense that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. And people are like, I'll take Myles Murphy. Yeah. Okay? I'm sitting at 10. He falls to 4. Go get his ass. Myles Murphy. Hey, and Darryl Talley's a dear friend of mine. Both those guys, man. Those guys are my boys, man. We talk all the time. Darryl's not doing as well, though, obviously. Dementia's starting to set in, but it's all good, man. We talk a lot. It's funny. Not that I like to bring it up. Dude, I have to, though, since we brought Darryl Talley. So that whole thing back in 2012 with the monkey thing on the air, Talley calls me up and goes, me too? I go, shut up. He starts laughing, going, dude, only the media people are going to make a big deal of it. You know all of us love you. And I said, thanks, man. Oh, man, I love Daryl Talley. He's been on the program, too. So is Biscuit. He's been on the program. I just love those guys so much. What great football players, too. Talley was a bitch at West Virginia, man. He could play. That's another great football player. Daryl Talley he knocked dudes out, man. He did. Cornelius Bennett's a superstar. And for him to say that Will Anderson reminds him of himself, and I'm sitting here telling you, would you trade up to 4 to get him? And you guys are like, no, I'll take Miles Murphy or Brian Branch. I'm like, well, Brian Branch is not Ed Reed. Okay? He's not Ed Reed, and I'm not taking a safety at 10. It's not happening. Okay? Yas says, Sills, do you think that Cansey's being overhyped? No. The problem with him, I said it yesterday, the kid from Pitt, is this. He's the 3rd best D tackle in the draft. It's this. He's an undersized height-wise, but he probably will be an exceptionally productive guy. Like, watch this. Put him in a 3 technique next to Jordan Davis in that Eagle line. He's a 3 technique. He's not a 1 technique. The kid Cansey from Pitt's a 3 technique. He's not a run stopper. He's going to get you sacks. That's maybe the kind of guy you want to go after. He's a 3 technique. And Jordan Davis is the 0 technique. Okay? People forget the Eagles can play around with their 2024 and 25 draft picks to move up for Will Anderson. How he's up to something. I'm going to tell you this right now, too, by the way. All the compensation picks they're going to get next year, they're going to get a ton of them. And get this. If Jalen Carter, look, here, I said this to you guys, the 2 best players that they could draft are Bijan Robinson. They're not going to do that. They'll pass on them. They shouldn't, but I think those 2 players will be there at 10. Or somewhere, how about this? I think those 2 players will be within reach. Is that fair? I think they'll be within reach at 10. Is that fair? They'll be within reach for them to make a move. The rest of these guys, I don't believe this is I believe it's a solid draft. I don't believe there's wow guys in it, except for Robinson, Carter, and maybe the kid from Texas Tech. I tweeted that out. Tyree Wilson, maybe him too. Okay? 4226 says, Sills, Mozzie Smith, is that the kid from Michigan? I think the kid Breezy's a little better. I think the kid Breezy's a little better than him. Is in this draft. Have you checked him out? I have. Look, I don't think Breezy and Smith are that far off one another. I think it's just like maybe desserts, whether you like apple pie or cherry pie. So I think they're kind of right there. Okay? See, to me, though, 4226, in today's NFL, you've got to have a flexible D-line to be able to go 50 front, 3 front, wide 9, wide 7, 34, 43. I think they like these hybrid guys now that they can slide into 3s, 1s, and 0 techniques and then put guys in wide 9s and 7s and 6s. I think that's what more defensive coordinators want to do today because there's more disguising now on the defensive side of the football. You've got to be how about this? I think you've got to be way more creative as a defensive coordinator on that side of the ball than you do even on the offensive side. Because you're limited on what you can do and how you can defend. So I think you've got to be more open to multiple fronts and multiple looks on that side of the ball because it's too complex. Dude, you can't hit people anymore. You can barely sack them. You know what I'm saying? You can barely sack them. All right, let's get into the topics. By the way, we're loaded, as I said. Phil Simms, 4:30. Mike Lombardi at 5:30. What do you guys – I got 2 Jalen Hurts topics. What do you think is the best explanation on why we're seeing Jalen Hurts and his development and how it's progressing at this pace? I think there's three things. Like 12 months ago, 18 months ago, as I said yesterday, I've never seen anything like it. We were talking whether or not he was a quarterback in the NFL last year. Now we're talking about $50 million, which is incredible. Think about that. You're talking whether or not you're going to have – Howie got two number ones for what reason? To debate drafting a safety or Myles Murphy? And by the way, I don't mean to pick on Myles Murphy. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a good football player. Okay, he's a good player. So, I mean, I'm just – okay. You don't get 2 ones to go get a D tackle or an offensive tackle. You got 2 because you weren't sure because you knew that the quarterback pool was going to be pretty deep this year. That's why you went out and got 2 number ones. They were going to take a quarter. They were sold they were going to take a quarterback. They didn't know that Jalen would progress this much. Peter says work ethic. Peter, I think that comment, and no disrespect to you, if you don't have a good work ethic coming into the NFL, why are you congratulating Jalen Hurts for not robbing a bank? Work ethic? $50 million? How the hell did you get to the NFL? How'd you get to the position that you're in? I'm not going to celebrate a guy for doing something that's expected of you. Work ethic? I don't know. How the hell do you think you're going to be great if you don't have a great work ethic? I get what you're saying. Look, not everybody has it. There's suspect thoughts on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on work ethic. I get it. I understand that. But to me, to debate that stuff, dude, isn't that something that's supposed to be a given if we're talking about franchise quarterbacks? It's one thing to put that label on a DT that's fat and out of shape. It's another thing to sit around and debate a $50 million quarterback and debate his work ethic. Hey, and I know where you're going with it. The guy Kyler Murray, dude, if I got to let me put this in there to you. Steve Keim came out and said, I wish the kid studied more. Where in the world did you come up with $46 million then? So the kid doesn't want to study, but you gave him the money? He doesn't take the game serious enough that he needs to be watching more game film and getting better and working on his skill set? I guess that's work ethic too. So the Cardinals still gave him the money? Man, what are you thinking? So you gave a lazy guy $46 million a year. Whew. That's why the Cardinals are the Cardinals. The Cardinals are the Cardinals because they gave a guy, Steve Keim, the former general manager of the Cardinals, was on a podcast saying, I wish he'd study more. So you gave a lazy dude $46 million a year. You get what you deserve there in Arizona. So the guy doesn't want to be the first one in, last one out? Shit, he's not the captain of your team then. That guy's the first dude off the boat, the first guy to blame. That's not a guy that's going to lead you to anything. Okay? He's not going to lead you anywhere. Tone says you got to remember, there are a lot of guys that get by on talent alone. There's one example of it in Arizona. You got to give credence to work ethic. Jesus, Tone, I guess takes no athletic ability to be a hardworking guy. And you're not wrong, Tone. I'm just saying, man, I've got to hope you're getting to the NFL because you work hard. Shit, dude. I don't want that to be part of the process. That's what made Jordan so exceptional. He was the hardest working star on the Bulls and the greatest. Dude, when you get the greatest player in the history of basketball and the greatest worker of all time, I guess they're diamonds in the rough. I just guess they're diamonds in the rough. Steve Keim gave Kyler $46 million, then jumped ship. You guys, and then, you guys figure it out. Hey, Jonathan Gannon, you got a guy who doesn't want to work hard. Man, what a culture shock that must. Hey, think about this. That must be a massive culture shock to Jonathan Gannon going from the Eagles to the Cardinals and walking in that building and seeing how lazy everyone is. Because I've seen it personally. I went from a college coach who ended up winning 3 Super Bowls 4 years later to the Buccaneers. I couldn't believe the environment. It took the air out of the room. I went from a place where everything was expected to be great and win to a place that everyone was waiting for the shoe to fall. There's nothing like being in a shitty environment like that. Jonathan Gannon must have walked into the Arizona Cardinals, and what a culture shock that must have been for him. Walking into a place where no one works hard. You know why no one works hard there? Because if your quarterback's not working hard, why should I? Just give me the paycheck. So you got a $20 million wide receiver, and you got a quarterback who doesn't like to study in Arizona. You think they're going anywhere? Of course they're not. So I get it. You're not wrong. I guess with today's athletes, hey, congratulations. Listen how it sounds. Hey, congratulations for being a hard worker. Okay. Listen how stupid that sounds. Congratulations for being a hard worker, Jalen. And again, it's not on him. I just guess it's today that you have to throw that out there. Congratulations on being a hard worker. Okay. Here are the 3 biggest reasons that I think you're seeing the ascent of Jalen Hurts. And I don't think you would see his ascent as rapidly as you're seeing if you didn't have these 3 things. I think the offensive line he has is the number one factor in why he's growing and getting better and better and better and better. You have a Hall of Fame center and 2 bookend tackles. 2 bookend tackles in a Hall of Fame center. The center is probably the second most important person in the offensive huddle. Why? He sets the front. He sets the protection. He has the ball in his hands just as much as Jalen Hurts does. He controls the blocking assignments. Jalen does the audibles. It's up to – can you imagine the lesson he's getting in protection and reading defenses? Where do you think he's getting his best? From Tom House? No. From Jason Kelce. Kelce sets the fronts, sets the blocking protection. Jalen's now seeing it. That's why you're hearing Kelce go, I got to play more time with this kid. It's really fun playing with him. I think Jason Kelce is the most important player in Jalen Hurts' development, more so than even A.J. Brown. Why? You gotta set the front first. You got to know who to block. There's no doubt that Brown is essential and his passing has gone up. But what has made the Eagles great over these last 2 years for them to keep continuing that ascent is because you have 2 amazing bookend tackles and a Hall of Fame center that takes so much of the burden off of Jalen Hurts. Tone says this also. These players are given so much as early as it you see in their young careers. Committed workers are hard to come by. It's crazy to say that, but I guess, and you're right. Jason Kelce is the most important person to Jalen Hurts. How many times do you think Jason Kelce must have said like this, an early part of Jalen Hurts being the offensive guy in that huddle? And Jalen, because you run the RPO, Jalen's got so much to read. Audibling into pass protection, adding one more dynamic. God, man, wow, is he smart. But Kelce helps with that progress. I got the protections. Don't worry about the protections. Read the safety, read the linebackers, read the mic. You take the RPO, I got the blocking assignments.
And then all of a sudden, Jalen starts seeing it, seeing how Kelsey also was a play caller out there. You got really three play callers involved in a play. Kelsey set in the front, Jalen deciding on RPO, and Steichen a year ago, now Brian Johnson, sitting here, put the foundation in and the guardrails for each and every individual play. That's incredible. And Steve, I get the father early on, and then Riley, and then some of the coaches he had at Bama. I'm talking about right now. Look at where we were 12 months ago. You tell me, who do you think was a more important player in Jalen Hurts' development? Jason Kelsey or A.J. Brown? I think it's Kelsey. You got to know who to block first. The toughest thing that quarterbacks struggle with is what? Pressure. Pressure. Finding the blitzer. How many times did you watch Carson Wentz not be able to figure out pressure? It wasn't whether or not you were finding wide receivers. Wentz struggles with pressure. He struggles with almost every quarterback that bombs struggles with pressure. Kelsey, man, those three dudes in that old line, shit, Sayamalo a year ago too. Man. By the way, I think A.J. Brown, I'm not saying he's not elevated the game of Hurts. He has. Two most important people, though, are Kelsey and then A.J. Brown in the development of this kid, and why we're talking completely different than we were 12 months ago. You know, it's funny, April 7th of a year ago versus April 7th today it's mind-numbing. Where you are talking about, by the way, we're going to talk to Phil and with Mike Lombardi. 1 year, you've seen enough to give him a 7-year contract. 1 year. 1 year. You've seen enough to give him a 7-year contract. It's 1 year. First year was okay. Last year was great. And remember, you have history. You saw Carson Wentz have an MVP season. And here you are again, history repeating itself. Will you choose right this time? Will you choose right? You didn't the last time. Are you sure? Are you more sure now? Remember something. Before you say all that, well, I know now. Yeah, this is it. Hey, the Eagles gave Carson Wentz a ton of money. $38 million a year. $38 million a year. Okay? $38 million you gave him. And he had more than kind of 1 year before you gave him that contract. And he had a much better year than Jalen. Think about that. He had a better year than Jalen Hurts, the Super Bowl season. He was better that year than Jalen. He was. And you gave him the money. Are you sold off of 1 year that he's your guy? All things pointing up. I thought Wentz was going to be the guy too. Okay, I did. I thought Wentz was going to be the guy too. You were also then. It's funny, man, all the media people now on how they dog Wentz. You know why they dog Wentz? Because early on, they were praising Wentz, so now they got to trash him. And they forgot their takes. That's why they don't want to change their take now. So what they do is they shit on him. Instead of just going back and remembering what they said about him, instead of telling the truth. I was one of those guys. I thought he was on his way to becoming the next Brett Favre. I thought he was on his way. I'm not going to BS you. Like I told you, man, my takes all go by player production. My takes aren't set in stone, nor should they be. It's going to be on the player production. Either you get better or you don't. I'm not a fortune teller. I go by what I see right now and what your history is. That's why when I look and I tell you about Jordan Davis has never been a productive guy. Watch him on tape versus Jalen Carter, and you'll get a sense of who's the better player. Don't let your eyeballs fail you. Watch Jalen Carter play, and then watch Jordan Davis play, and you'll know the difference. You'll know the difference. Chico wants to give Jalen Hurts a 10-year, $50 million deal off of 1 year. By the way, I'm not saying they're not going to, but he's so sold off of 17 games. 17 games he sold. 17 ball games that he's a $50 million guy. You don't think that's a gamble? So you've seen enough of 17 games that he's going to be a $50 million a year guy. Okay. History's not on your side. History's not on your side. It's not. Wishful thinking. History is not on the side of Jalen Hurts. He'll have to be a trendsetter, as you guys are calling him. By the way, it's not shade. It's the history of where we are in the league. Dak's not the guy. Carr's not the guy. Murray's not the guy. Baltimore knows that Lamar may not be the guy. They had 3 years to cut that deal for him, and they were never sold. And he was an MVP of the league. They were never sold. Get this. Think of that. The more accomplished player in Baltimore. Now, to be candid, Baltimore's not doing a lot of right things over the last 3 years either. Okay? Let's be fair there, but Lamar Jackson's a more accomplished football player, and he's only a year older than him. And they're not sold on him. They were never sold. They had 3 years to cut that deal. 3 years. 3 years to cut that deal. And they wouldn't do it. Callie Green goes, Jalen's that guy. Okay. Well, you're going to gamble. It's a gamble that traditionally doesn't pan out or pay out. But okay. You have to, I guess. Because of what is the thing that everyone likes to say? It's the market value. Okay. Market value ends up destroying many of the football teams. Shit, get this. They even gave Aaron Rodgers $60 million. And what happened? They had an under 500 record after going 13 wins three years in a row. When that contract kicked in, they had to get rid of Devontae Adams. Okay. Again, like I said, we'll see. Hey, by the way, not rooting against him. 17 games. We shall see. Life's a gamble? Yeah, you're right, Callie Green. You gambled once on Wentz, and you struck out. And at least I give the organization, hey, I'll tell you what you do too. You give the Eagles credit. They're going to take another swing again. They're going to take a big money swing again. Good for them. You know how some organizations will hide and not do it again because they're afraid? At least the Eagles are going to take another swing at this. This will be their second attempt at the plate to find a franchise quarterback. They feel just as comfortable now as they did then. Okay, good. That's the kind of organization you want. This is not a shade conversation here. This is the league. I get it. I'm not, absolutely no shade. Scared money doesn't make money. Absolutely. I give them credit for taking another swing here. Oh, absolutely. No way, man. The worst thing you can do is do this. Hey, I'm not going to pay another quarterback big money because you know why? We got hijacked with Wentz. Screw that shit. I'm not going down that avenue. Not me, man. I'm not wasting the owner's money because then get this. My job's on the line. Howie taking another swing. Hey, by the way, who was the guy that signed off on Wentz's contract extension? Was it Howie? This could be a career move for Howie. Who signed off on Wentz's extension? Okay, who was here? Okay. Here, technically, it is the owner. Who signed off on Wentz as the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles? Who went to the owner and said, we should do this? Who went? Was it Howie? Howie did. So he's going to do it again. Kudos. Not a rip. But I'd hate to strike out twice. But good for him. And get this is the second one. And why the development of, I just got goosebumps here. Jalen Hurts has done so much that Howie Roseman's willing to put his reputation and his job on the line. Because if he strikes out again at the quarterback position with the amount of money that's in this, dude, it's got to be a death nail to you. But he's going to do it. Think of the trust that Howie has now in Hurts. We got to give this guy his money. And the owner agrees. That's pretty ballsy of Howie. Would you be willing to do that again? Put your ass and your reputation and your job and all the things that you had done in Philadelphia, 2 Super Bowls, 1 win, all that on the line. If you F up again and you don't get that position right, how's that not a death nail to your reputation? How's that not a death nail? Dude, Jalen's trust. That's pretty boss. That's pretty boss, man. They trust him. Tone says Howie has something other GMs will never have. That's a latitude from his owner. Think about how long Howie's been with Mr. Lurie. 23 years. Other GMs are consistently wheeling and dealing for their jobs. Howie moves like his job is never on the line. Dude, it's a true statement that Tone just said there. Bro, that's awesome. They trust this kid. Could you do that? I gave $38 million away of Mr. Lurie's money on a failure player in Wentz. You have the balls to go back to your owner and go, we're going to do it again, but this time it's 50. Are you sure he's the guy? Yes. Jalen has built that much trust with both men who failed with Wentz. Phew. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That shows you the organization and where they are, the Eagles. Dude, I can't think of a better organization in the NFC than the Philadelphia Eagles right now. I mean, Howie Roseman's trust that he has with his owner to go back again. Here we are, again, with another mega deal on the table after you've bombed, asking your owner for $50 million a year and almost $200 million in guarantees. You got a lot of job security, or you have a lot of balls, or both. Kudos. Funny, this conversation, Jalen Hurts has changed. The Eagles must have been completely apprehensive. Hence the 2 number ones. They must have been so apprehensive going into last year that they set up, look at this, they got $20 million in cap space. 2 number ones, they could grab a quarterback, but it was set up for a quarterback, not for Myles Murphy. Jalen has changed the entire conversation around in 12 months. 12 months, he's changed the narrative. Can you imagine telling your boss, hey, I lost 30 million, but hey, guess what? I needed another 50 million just to say yes. That's exactly where they are now. Hey, Mr. Lurie, I know I burned $30 million in the trash can for you a couple of years back. You know, that tragic mistake and the number one pick. And a number one pick. What was he, the second player taken? And the number 2 overall player taken. I know I screwed all of that up. But hey, guess what? On a second round draft choice, I'm going to give him $50 million a year, 7-year contract, maybe around $350 million. Can you sign off on it? Can we have a conversation a little bit here? Howie has the biggest balls in the league. Can you, dude, go back to your, what's this? So just in your own place of work, do this. Man, I lost 7 accounts. We're now underwater. Then you have to go to your boss and go, hey, you know, we need a higher expense account to be able to go out and make more money. So I need to increase our budget. You're losing money and you have to go to your boss and ask him for a bigger budget. Most bosses, 90% of the bosses are going to go, that ain't working. You imagine going to Mike Brown if you F up on the F up on a deal and asking him for more money. Hey, guess what? You know, we screwed up on this deal here, but hey, end of the day here, man, I need 50 million. Mike Brown ain't doing that shit. That's why the Jets are in a position that they're in. Howie Roseman's putting, hey, I don't care you got him to 2 Super Bowls. You screw this money deal up for this owner, he's going to come for your ass, man. But guess what? Howie don't care. That's a really good relationship. You're going back to the well and asking the owner to trust you this time after you bombed. Look at the quarterbacks they've drafted. Since 2000, look at the shitty quarterbacks they've drafted. Every one of them, except now it looks like Jalen. There's not a quarterback on that list that's worth a shit except Matt Foles. Sure. Okay. But he was more of a substitute teacher. Was going to be a starter for you over a long period of time. All them quarterbacks they've drafted have been bums. Now, he's going back to the well. That's pretty cool. Trust. So O-line and trust in why Jalen and the biggest reasons for his development. Here's the third one. It probably goes with everything here. We just talked about. Environment. How many people have... Here, let me show you something here. What do you think of the environment in Green Bay, Baltimore, the Chargers, and Cincinnati? Okay? What's the quarterbacks that are up right now? And we're talking about environment here. I wrote this down here. And I wrote down all the players. Think about the environment there. Now think about the environment in Philly. General manager runs the team, not the owner, like you have in Dallas. The general manager picks the players. For the most part, picks the assistants. For the most part, picks the head coach. Didn't need to draft a quarterback because we had McNabb. You know, but you did. You drafted 9. They all sucked. Didn't need to. Then why'd you draft 9? Since 2000, you drafted 9 quarterbacks. They all sucked out loud except one. As a starter. The environment. Okay, Tony, all your backups sucked except one. 9 quarterbacks. They all sucked. And by the way, that's not true. You used the second pick in the draft to get a quarterback, and he sucked. And you gave him $38 million. He sucked. except Foles. Okay, you're right. At least he was taken in a latter round. You used a second pick overall to get Wentz. And he sucked too, part of the 9. Environment. Look at what Jalen has. Players around him, the trust of the organization, an environment to work in. How many quarterbacks have that, you think? Let's take a look at the quarterbacks that have their deals up right now. Justin Herbert, the environment with the Spanos family. Dude, I've been around that organization. It's a shitty, it's a nickel and dime operation. They're terrible. The Spanos family, again, they got some good football people in there like Telesco, but at the end of the day, it's a nickel and dime organization. They don't win. Justin Herbert is a great-looking player. He looks like a Grand Slam player. They're not going to win with him. Why would I think that? They didn't win with Rivers or Dan Fouts. Now they're going to win? Okay. Stan Humphries, all I'll say. So look at the environment there. They're going to go cheesy on the money. The owner and the general manager are kind of on the same page, but the owners are horrible. Environment. They got talent, but they don't have coaching, and they don't have the ownership. So they got one of the 3 that we're talking about what Hurts has. Let's take a look at Burrow. Let's look at Burrow now. There's players there. The environment. The owner. So there's players there, but no decent owner, and the environment sucks. Let's look at Baltimore. There's no talent outside of the tight end. Ozzy's not in the building. There's friction between the player and the organization. Look at that environment. You have no O-line. There's no trust and no environment for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Do you understand? All these things have to all line up. They all have to line up for you to be a dynamic player also. Look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Brady. Structure, environment, players. And for at the last, look at Montana. Environment, Mr. DeBartolo, John McVay, Bill Walsh, environment, and talent. If you don't have all that going, think of where Baltimore is now, where Jalen is. He has no O-line. He has no trust with the organization. And the environment blows. How's he going to win? Both don't believe in one another. Do you have him for 3 years? You have very little talent in the O-line. Your defense is in shambles. Your general manager is not Ozzie Newsome. How are you going to win there? How are you going to win? Jalen has the O-line, trust, and environment. That's why he's going to go with that. Look at Mahomes. The Hunt family. Andy Reid. Players. Mahomes doesn't have the environment and all. I don't know. I would say Jalen's probably in a better place than, I don't know. Lamar Hunt and family are pretty cool folks. That's a pretty cool place to play. The fan base is a lot. Kansas City's a lot like Philadelphia. How the fans look at that team like it's a community thing, and they love that. They love the players. It's a lot alike, man. Buffalo's a little bit, but Kansas City's a lot more like Philly. You know why? Because they win there. Okay? Philly and KC are a lot alike. Probably why Andy Reid fits in there. Never thought about that. Andy Reid went to a place in Kansas City that has a lot of the same attributes that Philadelphia has: environment, culture, talent, and a desire to win. Right? Kansas City's always been a good football team as far as I know. Hunt family is one of the greatest families in NFL history. Mars, Rooney's, Jeffrey Lurie's turning into being something like that as well. Those are the reasons that I think when you watch Jalen Hurts' ascent, and then you put the one thing that Tone said, his work ethic. He's an overachiever. He's an overachiever. All the things that he was told he couldn't do, he's working to become. He's where he is, not because of his talents. It's because of his work. Same as Brady. Brady was never going to have the talent that Aaron Rodgers had. And nor did he ever. He outworked him. Isn't it crazy? You can outwork talent. Jalen outworks talent. Hurts is outworking talent. There's more talented people in him. He's just outworking you. Look at him outworking Kyler Murray. There's the greatest example of that dynamic right in front of you. Who would you rather have for a 60-minute ball game to try to win a Super Bowl, Kyler Murray or him? Who would put the work in to win the Super Bowl, him or Hurts? Ask yourself that. He outworks you. That's why sometimes when you run into guys like Jordan, and that's why when you run into Mahomes, who also puts the work in, he's just more talented than you. It happens. You run into Jordan. Clyde Drexler ran into Jordan. Sometimes you just run into those guys. Best worker, best player, generational player. God forbid he's the hardest worker in that generation too, which he turns out to be. And again, I still think Mahomes has a long way to go because I think he gets a little reckless and I think he gets a little lazy. But he had to be more of a student last year. You know, that was Mahomes' best year as a player. You know why? They relied on him more. That's what they're going to have to do this year because the defense has got to come around for the Eagles. And that's what the Eagles in their organization saying. They think he's that. They think he's going to be not what Mahomes can do, but what Mahomes brings to the team. That's what they think Jalen Hurts does for the Eagles, what he brings to the team. That's what I think they see in him. He's never going to be a 50-touchdown guy. But they don't care about that. They care he brings that attitude, that work ethic. I'm going to outwork you. You know, I will say this to you. I would say this to you. I would say this. Talent sometimes is overrated because it turns into potential. Okay? It turns into potential. And when you don't live up to that potential, Carson Wentz, man, is that an anchor around an organization. But when you get one of these guys, Jalen Hurts is probably going to, because of who he is, win 7 out of every 10 ball games he's in. If the environment, the trust, and the talent around him are all still in the same sandbox, he's going to win about 70% of his games, 68%, somewhere in there. That means the majority of the time you're going to be a contender. That's what Brady did. Brady outworked you. Then it became he outskilled you. Brady beats you with knowledge, not talent. Knowledge. Knowledge is more important than talent, especially in a game like the NFL. Dude, you could be the most physically gifted guy on the planet. You can run people over, be the strongest guy, be the fastest guy. That's not going to win you anything. Your skill set does. Okay? Your skill set does. So we just got a note here. Mike Lombardi says he's sorry he can't go today. And it's Good Friday, so it's all good. Don't worry, Mike. It's all good, Paisan. We'll catch up with him next week. We still got Phil Sims coming up at 4:30. So we're looking forward to talking to Phil from CBS Sports. We'll get his thoughts. He's coming up here in hour number 2. Also, I got another thing on the contract that we heard, and you tell me what you think. Also, by the way, I can't believe what I'm going to read to you. Chicago, the city of Chicago, ranked the best quarterbacks in the NFC. See, I don't want to hear any publication out of Philadelphia because it's jaded. Wait till you hear what they said. It's incredible. Also, teams that had the best offseason. We're going to get with that as well. Got another contract conversation here on Jalen Hurts on this Good Friday. Tell you what, man, Jalen's got a lot going for him right now. And that's why Clutch Sports and the Eagles are working together to make this a long relationship. And that's why the owner wants to make it a long relationship. Hour number 2, please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National.